Yeah. So it went a little bit further than I was anticipating it going. I still need to tidy some of the welds up, but the majority of it now is exactly where I want it to be. The main reason for going to this level of the repair, I wanted to try and keep these two strengthening ribs in place. And so I chopped that bit off the edge and welded that bit onto the edge. I had to put in a piece here because the bottom edge of this flute was or this rib was actually glass fibre. So main reason why I stripped the entire thing back. Now, where are we? So, little bit of trimming up here now on the new piece I put in. But if I now position that where the old bit come out, which is more or less there, I can stitch that back in now, you see. But not today. That'll be a tomorrow job, because I've had enough today now. But it's not far out, and I think because I chopped it out with a 1mm disc, it's going to be right for me to weld that back in. And I kept this bloody great lip here on the bulkhead side panel so that I can put that back more or less exactly where it needs to go to. So I'm pleased with that, but before I weld that in, trim this bottom edge off. The only reason I've kept that bottom edge is that curve there is helpful for me just to measure up against the arch, this curve here. Okay, now I know that's in the right place. I can take that bottom piece of rust off there and make up the rest of the panel and bend it around so that it lines up. So that's kind of the start of that major reconstruction of the Footwell. Now, some of you will be shouting at the television or the computer screen, why didn't you just use a Footwell panel? And the main reason I didn't use a Footwell panel is because I'd have ended up having to cut the side off it, cut the base off it, cost the customer 45, 49 quid in a Footwell panel, and it would have needed almost as much work as that's needed. That's taken me an hour so far, really, just to trim that, get that welded in, and fabricate sections and understand exactly where I'm going to go to. So that piece up there as well. So yeah, I think it'll work, won't it? So where it comes to this radius, and this is where the Footwell panels that come out are wrong, because here you can see the radius is going along this sort of line and it continues all the way along here, and so I need to put a cut there. The radius that would be here on this panel, so right against the gearbox bell housing, is different to the radius that's on the edge, and I've gone over that a few times before, but yes, I am pleased. Making up small repairs here, just no point even trying to think about salvaging that piece. Yeah, so I made this fairly easy. Okay, a little bit of untidiness this around there, but once it's welded into place, I can just flap this edge back straight and flat. It's only really on there just to stop any real flex. Drilled some holes roughly in the location where the floor's going to go to. And yeah, right, so does it fit? Does it fit? Hello world. And floor's not welded in yet because I want to weld this piece in first. So that goes in pretty much like that, I reckon. Well, that's just fucking beautiful. So I'll clean up these edges, I'll weld that in, then I'm going to start messing around with the floor. I've done some holes here, so I just drilled pilot holes just to get a rough idea where I'm going to drill the bigger holes. I tend to plug weld through an 8mm hole. It's a lot easier. These still need flapping back. I started last night and I was getting bored with the noise. So I'll plug weld 8mm holes down the edge here. That'll weld on, then I can weld the floor on the inside. Now, as far as the inside goes, I've made the panels up, I just haven't welded them in. But it's starting to look like a floor again. And yes, normally I kind of go along, as I'm going along, I flat welds back as I'm going along, but I must admit I got a bit bored with it last night, so I stopped, and now I've got a mother of all kind of like list of welds that need flatting back, and the rubbish pile's growing as well down here. So before I put tyres back on this, I'm going to have a damn good sweep, because the world is on the floor under this car. But this is dangerously close to actually getting done on this corner, which I'm pleased about. Work out how I'm going to paint it. So I need a dry day, and we've got rain forecast over the next couple of days. I don't even want to put primer on it until I'm ready to put a top coat on, because the primer will absorb moisture, which is not good. But as you can see now, I can actually access quite a lot of the areas that will need painting. Yeah, a lot of this stuff is hidden, so it might end up being, let's say, I'll get a foam roller or something and roll the paint on that way. But primer, first and foremost, will be the key objective. Treat all this surface rust. This is literally surface rust here. There's no pitting on this at all. It's all very nice. It's a very nice. Yes. Yesy, muck, yes, right. Oh, I need to do that bit up there as well. Look at that. Treat the rust along that edge there. Just going to take these brake lines out of the way. They're copper. They're not the most beautiful, but they're all right. They're effective. They do the job. Be nice, yeah. Be nice to get this thing back together again. Get the deck and the bonnet back on it, so I can get half my workshop back. Don't look, Bertie Wooster. This is tidying up. Believe me. You can see over the back there, it's being organised. Yeah, you get a shout out on the channel. Sorry about your depression with the state of my workshop, sir. Right. Yes. Happy with that. Right, now, before I put the floor in, I got this section here, which is the only real bit that's properly compromised. I'm going to have a look at that bit there, because the metal was a bit on the soft side, but other than that, we're fairly good order here. So what I'm planning on doing here, I'm leaving the lip on the side of the A-post because it's in good order, apart from the very, very, very front bit. I'm chopping out the bulk of it, which really involves me finding where the spot welds are, using trusty wood chisel, and then just really levering the panel up and getting it out and off. Once it's off, then I can make up a replica and weld it straight back in again, and that'll be done. Then I can put the floor in. Then I'm going to do these bits like that later on. You can just see there where it's might be thin, I don't know. There's a hole there. It's just literally just at the weight of it's not like I'm belting it on. But there's a couple of small holes as I go back on the sill. I don't need to replace anywhere near like the entire top edge of the sill. And once I get this piece off, I'll get a good indication about what the inside of the sill looks like. But from the outside of it, I'm going to say there's fuck all wrong with this sill. So I'm just going to replace the localised areas on the top where the sound deadening has really just started to rot. Started to rot, the rust, the rusty rot, the rotty rusty. Yes, right, I'm cracking on because I'm having the radio on and I'm not videoing all this, but you can see where I'm going with this. You can see how I really just chop the section out. Once that's out, then I'll be able to make a template up and weld it straight back in again. And then once that's in, floor can go in, etc, etc, etc. It's not rocket science, folks, but it's just a case of being methodical and also not being scared of it. There's a lot of people might have just thought, oh fuck it, that's a piece of piss, I'll just put a skim of filler over the top of that. Well, I ain't one of those people, I'm afraid. So it's steel. Steel's going back, and especially being its proximity to the base of the A-post as well. And I know the sill's good and I know the chassis mount's good, so let's just make it good all over. that's it out. I'll take that into the daylight. Inside there didn't actually look too bad. The leading edge on the floor support was gone, but there's enough of it left there, I think, that I can make a repair to that and just put a square of steel back in the floor. Now, the reason there's so many spot weld holes in this thing was because there was pitting on the surface and I could not work out where the spot welds were. So I ended up with lifting this edge, really chiseling it up until I did find indentation. See, you see there's an indentation there, but there was no spot weld on the back of it. So there's a lot of false flags on this as it came off. And as you can see on the back here, we've got the underseal. Then underneath the underseal, which has started to lift, no paint and rust. Okay, so whatever underseal primer schutz that was, it's not done bad. It's lasted 30 something years, and there are people commenting about how is it Land Rover was so shit at making cars. Well, they are these days, but back then these cars were only designed to last 10 years. And look, 29. Well done. Good effort. So yeah, I'm going to cut a piece out now. I shall weld that back in, and I can put the floor in. Bugger! I was welding up against the edge there, that edge which I thought was good and was solid. And yeah, I was just chasing holes. And then when I start tapping around, I found another fucking great hole there. You bastard! So we're good to about here. I'm going to have to cut a strip down here like that. I'll cut all this fucking weld where I was chasing holes. That can all come up. So I'm going to cut across here, straight, probably like that, straight down there. I'll just weld knob along in. That's annoying. That is bloody annoying. All of this lot is good. So I know there's a hole there. I'm going to deal with these holes locally. Probably shouldn't video with fucking hammering, should I? I'll mark it out. But it does look like, from this line here, it does look good. That's all. I can actually feel that that's solid up there. Oh, what a pain in the arse. Nice. Right, okay. Cut that out. What I might do is take that piece of foam out there, because this area here, I'm welding very, very, very close to this stuff. And this stuff likes to burn, really likes to burn. So I'm going to just chop it off up here, I think. Cut it across there. And see if I can get that out as one big lump. And I can go back in as one big lump. Shit biscuits. That's the bit I chopped out. And you can see here where I was chasing holes. When I hold that up to the sky, you can see the problem I was having, really. And it's as I was tapping it, it was just falling apart. On the back, it doesn't look too bad. This underseal, by the way, it burns beautifully. I think I might have mentioned it before. When you're working on one of these areas, and I hadn't in this particular case, get your blade and just scrape it off. It comes off dead easily. It's all down there on the floor where I scraped it off. Yeah, so that's the bit as I took it off. And that's the bit as replaced. That's better. Right, so I've been underneath with the light, which is why the light was down there. I'm really seeing if there's any pinholes through the floor. I'm pretty pleased with that. So paint on the inside and schutz on the outside. Now I've done that, let's start working on these areas. So let's have a quick clean out first and foremost. And just as I finished that, the very last weld on that, I ran out of wire on the welder. In fact, there's a bit up there that he's welding as well. Look at that. Okay, tail end of the working day for me. I'm going out tonight with the missus, so stopped welding earlier on today. Already shown you that, hopefully, and the lace that was around it. Then I chopped out that piece, which looked like, let's go away from the flickery light, that, and again, arrows are very useful just for reminding me which way round it goes. As you can see, it's not the best, is it really? And then made up that. It's a little bit too long at the moment, but that will soon fit in there beautifully. Chopped out this piece of the top here, which is around somewhere. I can't find it at the moment. It's not in here. It wasn't actually rusty underneath. So I'm going to trust the rest of this, that while there's pitting on there, it's not actually that bad. And it will get a rust treatment and paint before it goes, before the carpet and the underlay E-bar goes back in. Shouldn't do that, Richard. And then I got all the electrics and everything for the air suspension out the back, pulled all of this sound deadening out of the way so I could really see what was going on down here. And as you can see, there's more or less a very, very, very distinct line, which is the edge of where that stuff goes. And there is a little bit under there. There's nothing particularly horrendous. It's I've been over it extensively with Mr. Tappy, and I can't find anything here other than the two holes as already identified. A lot of this mess here I'm able to polish back to clean steel quite easily, and I think it's just down to the backing from the sound deadening that came out of the footwell here. Got damp, stuck to the floor, and then, so for instance here, you can see I'm just scraping away, and it's not metallic, it's the backing. Now I know I said that up there, which is why I went fucking berserk, pardon the expression, with Mr. Tappy, just to actually confirm that when I do this, and I chop out like a section and make up this, or chop out and put a square in, I really am not going to find a problem here. We can actually have this floor bloody done. Be nice, wouldn't it? Anyway. So once that's done, then really I could put a lick of paint on it, then I could seam seal it, then I could top coat, and then I could do the stuff I'm supposed to be doing. I'll give this a treatment with the rust prevention tomorrow. And then underneath, yesterday, I think I showed you this, I peeled as much of the sound deadening back as I dare. And wherever it was loose, there was rust behind it, and where it wasn't loose, it's fine. It's stuck like shit to a blanket. However, whether I take it all off or not, I don't know. I'm probably inclined to, if it's not loose, I'm inclined to leave it there. But all along this edge here is sound and solid. That's sound, whereas it wasn't on the other side. It's just got surface rust against it. Yes, I think. Are there any dots of light I can see through there? Because the light is actually in there, you see. Oh, I see one down there. There's one there. I shall investigate. That is going to be somewhere along here. About there, I reckon. So I'll put another blob of weld over that. And it'll all be seam sealed anyway. But if the weld is solid, it gives it a fighting chance, doesn't it? We are getting somewhere. We are actually getting somewhere. And the amount of dust is horrendous. Sorry, Dennis. It will get a proper deep cleanse. Right. There's not an awful lot I can really. I put the cloth over the top of it all, and I've taken all of the blankets out, but I have blankets over everything. And of course, then because I used the blanket before, Is it then that, the blanket, that's caused me problem? You never know, do you? Anyway. Be nice to have this floor looking beautiful again. The last bit of welding. No, please. Oh, yes, this is great news. Right, okay, I've made up the repair, and I'm just about to dot this into place. The other one's done, and then I can treat all the rust, surface rust, and then paint it. Oh, thank goodness. Thank goodness. That's all I can say. Yeah, a little bit of heat scraped all the remains of the underseal off this wheel arch. Main reason for this is that I was struggling to find all the areas where it had actually lifted from the surface. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to take the whole damn lot off. So there it is, it's on the floor. Oh yes. On the whole, it was fairly well stuck, but as you can see on that piece there, very clearly got rust behind it. It's all gone. Oh, we've been having a fun day. So, Painty McPaintface, Painty McPaintface, Painty McPaintface, Painty McPaintface, Painty McPaintface, and Painty McPaintface. Happy with that? It's all gone on fine. I'm going to use a decent primer on this because obviously you can see this bit, but the rest of it you can't. So, heavy duty, 2-pack epoxy underneath and on top. And the stuff I use is, come over to my tiny workbench. This stuff, custom 4:1 from Rustbuster. It comes in grey. There we are, 4:1. Next job I had to do on this, do you remember the door wouldn't open? Well, behold, bloody does now. Now, I did it and I didn't video any of it. I don't know why. In a nutshell, there it is. Back of the handle, catch on the door. Between there and there's a rod, and the rod's got a thread on it, and the one end of the rod goes into a pin which sticks in there, and the other end of the rod just got a bent section which clips into there. The rod that came off this door was rusted solid, so I couldn't actually adjust it. And what I had to do, what it really needs to do, was to have a bit more length in it. We all need a little bit more length every now and then, don't we? What I found was the door opened from the inside with no problems at all, but would not open unless you were really hanging off the handle from the outside. So replacing that rod has got that back into rude order. Very good. Happy enough with that. Job done. Then I got onto the front door, because the front door, the central locking plunger doesn't always pop down. It always unlocks, but doesn't always lock down. Now, there's been some gibbonry going on in here. I think what the problem actually is that there's a spring in the lock mechanism on the handle, and it ain't doing nothing because there's no kind of solid action kind of feel to the lock. And so because of that, then someone's overcompensated by adding a whacking great big spring attached to the underside of the plunger, and massacring the mounting plate for the central locking. Now, the central locking itself, if I come back over here, normally with these, when they're dead, this flops around like a dick in a bucket, and that isn't, believe it or not. It goes that far, and then you push it and it clicks into place, and you pull it out and it comes that far, then it pops out. Okay, that's normal. That's how they should operate. So if I put power to that, that would pop in and out quite happily. So I think that the actual solenoid itself is good. Now, when I first took this off, it felt like a bag of spanners. And that's because it was either overextended or not extended far enough. By exercising it and pulling it in and out a few times, it's actually behaving itself. So I'm reasonably confident that is in good order. So I've just left a message with the customer. Does he want me to take the glass frame out in order to change the spring on the door catch? If he does that, I'm going to do a how-to video, which I might do anyway. If I look at the rear door catch, bear in mind this is a rear door catch and it's a front door catch. So here's the lock mechanism here, and what would normally happen is that would stop the catch from undoing, and the spring is there. Now, it could just be it needs lubing up. I will give it a damn good lube. And yeah, we'll see what comes back from the customer. But at the moment, that is, oops, see what's happened then, and this is what happens because the spring's not in there. Shut the door, the plunger's dropped down a 1/16 of a millimetre, which has then locked the door, which is probably why someone thought, ah yes, moaned like hell at the dealer or trader or repairer and said, it's not working, blah blah blah. When you slam the door, this just drops down enough because the spring's not holding it into place, which is why they put the spring on there to pull the plunger up. Who'd have thought it, eh? Locks. Unlock it. So we unlock it, Richard. There's the unlock. Slam it. It's not going to do it now, is it? Locks. It's a world of masking out, but it's worth it. The finish on the top of the wing isn't particularly beautiful, but 99.999% of it is covered up. Around the, and this is literally just the base coat at the moment because it needs a lacquer coat on the top there to give it a shine. But that's the bit really that you see when you open the bonnet. Customer didn't want me to paint the slam panel because it's got the stickers on it, so I've painted up to the edge. Now the problem with the kind of the whole thing along the front was the lacquer had lifted across the entire front panel, so quite why it hasn't on the external panels I couldn't tell you. Right, now I can seam seal underneath. I know I've top coated it under there, that's just to seal the primer in though. I can now seam seal that, lacquer it, start putting it back together. Oh yes. I also, while I was at it, there's a spoiler there with the door, there was little bits of corrosion on the corners of the boot lid, so I just dusted those in. And a tiny little bit of corrosion down this edge here, which I treated the rust on and just dusted a bit of top coat in there. Sorry, hickety up it is. Right, door. As promised, I'm taking the catch out of here. So getting the door out of these things is a piece of piss. Glass up, 2 bolts, 1 bolt, 2 bolts, 3 bolts, 1 Torx screw, 4 bolts. 4 bolts, 1 Torx screw, okay? Then, once you've got all those out, the frame is loose. Then, holding the glass up, undo 3 bolts here for the motor. Disconnect the motor, take it out. Motor's then disconnected. You can then raise and lower the glass as you wish. Okay, so for safety, push the glass all the way down and lift the frame out, where he is over there by that V8. Once the frame is out, push the glass back up again and slide it off the channels. It don't get much easier than that, really. Rattling around, putting this thing back together again, it takes a while, but we're getting there. So you've seen all that lot already. This side has all been going together. Rebuilt the entire loom on this inner wing, sorry, to this inner wing. And really just kind of strapping everything back down again, ready to bleed the brakes through. Yeah. The rubbers, that's what they've done. And they've just aged. They've split. They're not split right the way through, but they've split and they're untidy, so I'm going to replace them. The inside here, yay! I'm going to drop the seat back in again once the seam seal has dried off. There's the label for the battery there. Once the seam seal's dried off, then I'll put the dynamat down on the driver's side. Yeah, I think, and yeah, been seam sealing underneath, wings back on. What I wanted to show you, that's what I'm rambling on about here. There's a couple of things that I've found. First and foremost, this is the door seal from the driver's side, and the seals separated from the back end there, and that's round on the driver's side, around this sort of area. And I'm wondering if that contributed partly to the damp footwell. So if you've got one of these, just double check that seal and make sure it is in good order. I'm going to rebond that. I'll put some of this stuff down.